Welcome to the show, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Just an absolutely insane week for the past 2 weeks. We've had some really crazy breaking news stories. Just recently, James Comey was indicted. Kind of crazy news coming out. We had sniper attack at a Dallas ICE facility earlier and the potential repeal of Obamacare. Lots of crazy things going on. Really a crazy time in history, and a lot going on. And so, just really wild. I never thought we would be here in a lot of respects, but tonight I brought a friend of mine that I found on X, and really a fantastic person. Has really a lot going on. Really an expert in health and nutrition. Has a fantastic website, great partner, and has really a huge background and a lot of things that people are seeking out right now after the COVID pandemic. A lot of people got really involved in their own health, the things that they were consuming, putting into their bodies. People really started to research a lot of different things. And so in terms of kind of an awakening, it was kind of a health awakening for a lot of different people, and some still haven't caught on to it, but a lot of them have. And I'm one of those. I really I started to look at everything that I was putting into my body, and in terms of like the news coming out, as of this week, President Trump and RFK Jr., they had a press conference and they talked about the potential causes of autism, and how vaccines and even Tylenol may have played a role in that. And so a lot of different things happening. They're fighting a multi-trillion-dollar industry, which is not easy to do. And in the meantime, we have great people like Erin helping people get healthy at the user level. And so without further ado, I'm going to welcome Erin to the stage. Erin, how are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. I've really I've come to admire your social media account. We've become friends on there, and I started to research what you had going on, and URockGirl, and all the different things that you had going on. And I was like, wow, I really need to have her as a guest. She'd be a fantastic guest, and a lot of people would like to hear from you. And so I appreciate you coming up here and talking with us today.
Oh, I appreciate you reaching out to me. Look, anyone at time anyone wants to give me a platform to talk about nutrition, health, and fitness and wellness, I can go for hours and hours and hours. So you just have to cut me off when you want to cut me off.
Yeah, no, you can just you get free reign here tonight. We're here to hear from you, and it's really you. Rock Girl was what kind of caught my attention, but you've been doing this for quite some time. Tell us about that.
So I've been a registered dietitian nutritionist for more than 30 years, and I've been practicing in the functional medicine space for about 10 years. And it was interesting from the time that I became a dietitian, I literally rejected following anything that the party line had to say and blazed my own trail and realized that there was a lot more out there to health and wellness than just what the major organizations wanted to spoon feed you. And back at about 2010, my cousin and I, and she also happens to be a registered dietitian, decided that we would partner together and create URockGirl, which is an online presence for basically the health and well-being, nutrition, fitness, recipes, etc., for women at all ages and stages of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you tell us about how you got started with in the health industry, where your foundation was, and then also some of the other things that you did. You worked with a magazine, and a few different other things. Tell us about that.
So it's funny, my cousin and I like to say that our grandmother was the original dietitian, even though she wasn't one, but she was super into making everything from scratch because that generation, they didn't buy things in bags and boxes. They built every single recipe from single item ingredients and created nourishing, healthful, health promoting meals. Um, so after we formed URockGirl back in 2010, my cousin and I started writing for a number of online publications, including Ace Fitness, Clean Eating Magazine, Oxygen Magazine. We sat on the board of health advisors for Clean Eating Magazine for probably about 5 years and created a number of online courses for them, as well as probably at this point hundreds of recipes and meal plans for them. And it was such a great experience because being able to share our knowledge and our passion and have it reach greater audiences is probably the number one most important thing, is to touch as many people as you can and show them that living a healthier lifestyle doesn't have to be hard and doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts on, RFK and the things that he's doing in terms of like, trying to, I guess, in terms of like the way I see things, and we can talk food, we can talk big pharma, we can talk a lot of different things, but it seems like a lot of the institutions that were supposed to protect people were actually just facilitating the industry, right? So these things, we're paying these people to protect us, and they're saying that these things are healthy for us, and they're really not. And say what you want about RFK, but he's trying to cut through that. If we're protecting people, let's protect people. If we're, if they're not doing that, then we need to break that down and fix it from from the core. And so that's what I see him as. It's people complain about he's not doing enough or whatever, but like he's up against a lot.
He really,
It's
he
a
really is.
lot. Yeah. And they have money, like, you're not going to cut into their profits, and they're not just going to go home and be like, oh, well, we just lost billions of dollars. No, they're not. They're going to fight him tooth and nail. So he is up against a lot. But I have a lot of respect for what he's doing, in terms of like trying to, I guess, seek alternate methods, speak truthfully about some of this stuff, which we haven't been able to for a long time because people were called a conspiracy theorist or whatever. But, I have a lot of respect for what he's doing, and I appreciate what he's doing, because I don't think under any other administration you would get anything else, because they're just, that's the way we do it here, in terms of like, just keep it going along, keep it, they donate to their campaigns or whatever, and they just keep it moving along, and for you guys, the pioneers out there, trying to help people too, that has to be a breath of fresh air to get, some help at that level.
It totally is. And you're right. I mean, I admire so much of what he is doing because he's cutting across party lines and he's coming forward with a health first approach. And you're right, he's different. He's not your typical politician. He is not bought and paid for by any food related, pharma related industry. And that's probably why he's getting as much pushback as he is getting from the masses. People like status quo, people like the way things just keep going along, and people like getting paid. um, but we're never going to fix this chronic disease epidemic of a society that we live in unless we go to the root cause of what is causing it. Another pill and another potion and another pill and another pill is not going to fix it. I mean, a pill for it's like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. It is not going to fix your high blood pressure or your heart disease or your diabetes or your chronic kidney disease. You've got to go to the root of what is causing it in the first place. And how you fix that is with food. I mean, food is one of what we call the four pillars of health, and really the four pillars. It's kind of like the four legs on a table. If any one of your legs on a table is weak, the table's going to fall down. And the four pillars are nutrition, fitness, sleep, and stress management. So I put all four of those as equally important. But what you put in your mouth is something you're doing every single day, multiple times a day. And frankly, sometimes people are eating too frequently. So it's the what you're eating, when you're eating, and why you're eating, you have to take into consideration.
Yeah. So what are you seeing? What's your typical client? What issues are they coming to you with? What are they looking to solve in their own lives? Obviously you have a wide range of of what they're coming to you for. But like, what are you seeing out there in terms of like what people are doing and where they're going wrong?
So I primarily see women on the spectrum from their fertility journey through menopause. So I'm seeing women at all the different stages of life. I'm trying to help women get pregnant naturally, and I'm trying to help women go navigate perimenopause and menopause and live their best lives, because life does not have to stop then. But what I'll tell you is really at the root cause of pretty much everything. There's multiple root causes. One is your gut health, right? So fix the gut, fix pretty much everything else. But along with that comes inflammation, which we see is rampant in pretty much anybody and everybody, and then insulin resistance. And those are the three main drivers of what is causing people to not only gain weight or have a really hard time with losing weight, but then all the weight related diseases that are associated with it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on berberine?
I think berberine is great. I use it myself and I recommend it to a lot of my clients.
Yeah, I've been taking it for a while, and I'm pretty happy with it too. Yeah, it just, in terms of my blood work and stuff like that, it seemed to improve things. I don't know if I'm just doing better or it's helping or whatever, but it definitely improved things. So
It's kind of hard to know unless you know what all the variables are. Like if
well,
berberine was the only thing you changed over like, a 3 month or a 6 month period of time, and then you did your blood work and you're like, wow, look at all these major, these great things with my blood work, then we can say it's the berberine. But if you implemented berberine and it changed your nutrition and maybe improved your sleep and changed the way you work out and stuff, then you got a lot of different variables. But the great thing is they all play nice together, and then you get this synergistic effect and such a great outcome.
yeah, for sure. And like I said, there's no way to know for sure, but I did see an improvement, so I'm not going to stop taking it. So
Honestly, I just see benefits to it.
right.
There's maybe the rare person, depending on the source of the berberine, and berberine comes from one of a few different plants. If they were to have an allergy to the plant from which it comes, I can understand that and they having a negative outcome. But for the most part, I think berberine is a great addition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it came recommended by a few different people, including an MD. So, I took that advice. So talk to us about what you guys do there. What are you doing for your clients? How do you help them out? You doing nutrition plans? Is there in person? What are you guys doing for people?
So I see clients virtually. Thank you, pandemic, to shutting down my office and turning everything into a virtual session, which is great because now that it increases the opportunities that people get to see me. I can see people earlier in the day, I can see people later in the day. I'm much more flexible with my schedule, but everybody is a unique individual, and so too is their plan. There's no cookie cutter formula as to how I'm going to recommend, a nutrition program for somebody. Really, what I do is I sit and I listen. And I want them to tell me everything that they are currently doing right now when it comes to their nutrition, fitness, sleep, and stress management. So I can work within each one of those pillars and start to make tweaks so that they can see improvements in their health outcomes and whatever their health goals happen to be. So, and granted, obviously, in the world of nutrition, there's everything from one spectrum of being, say, vegan and the other spectrum to being carnivore, and somewhere in between. And I can give you the pros and cons of everything. But what I generally, for the most part, like to see for most people is really shopping more the perimeter of the store, starting in your animal proteins and stocking up there, because protein is your most nutritious macronutrient out of all the foods out there. You're going to get your most vitamins and minerals bang per buck. So I do want people to eat adequate amounts of protein. And especially at any age and stage of life, you need more protein if you want to be more metabolically healthy. And I want people to cut back on the refined, processed foods. Like, granola bars aren't health foods, even though you and I are brought up thinking granola bars are health food, or that orange juice, I don't care if it's freshly squeezed, is not a health food. It is just a straight laced, sugar bomb. But I want people to shop the perimeter of the store. I want them to shop their proteins first. I want them to go into the produce section and find organic fruits and vegetables that resonate with them, and then find some kind of really good quality, healthy fat, like avocados. I'm from California. I love avocados. They're a perfect food. Eat more of those. And really trying to help guide people within the framework that they're doing now, make little tweaks, but pushing them more towards an animal-based, whole food, real food nutrition program.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to find something that works for you. I was a master fitness trainer in the Army, right? So it's like a personal trainer in the Army, but I also got my personal trainer cert too. It just as a side thing. But people would always ask me, what's the best exercise for this? What's the best exercise for that? The best exercise is the one that you will do. And for, in terms of eating, you have to find something that works for you. If it doesn't work for you, you're not going to stick to it. And so that means, it's easy for me because it's just me and my two sons. But if you have a wife or something, they have food needs or whatever, you kind of eat as a family. Sometimes that can be challenging too, because you have to get them on board with what you're doing. If you're really going to change things, if they're eating macaroni and cheese, it's going to be hard to have like a carnivore diet or like it can be challenging for real people, and you have to talk in real terms in how you're going to fit that into everybody's life, because you have to have a support system, and especially in a tight-knit family environment like that. And so that that is one thing that I could see could be a major challenge for a lot of people, is trying to fit that in. And that that's what I hear from people also, is like, yeah, I started eating healthy or whatever, but my wife she's just not into it or whatever, and so it just fell apart. That's
For sure.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you
you're
gotta recruit.
100% right there.
Yeah, you gotta recruit them.
It's interesting, I'll give you an example based on like my own personal family dynamic. Not everybody eats the same way. And when you have kids, say, with food allergies, like we have in our family, you have to work around that. And sometimes that might mean I'm making two proteins at dinner because my son is allergic to fish, but we eat a lot of fish. So sometimes I'm making two proteins. No big deal. You figure out how to make it work and you try not to overcomplicate things. And then you still just kind of go back to the same recipes within your repertoire that's easy and that that you can make taste really good, and that there's enough of something on the table for everybody. Because we have a family, at one point we had a family of four kids at home. Now we just have one kid at home, but four kids at home at dinner time, and especially when there were three teenage boys, there was a lot of food on the table. And sometimes it was definitely multiple proteins to make sure everybody got their needs. And not everybody liked the same vegetable, but not that I'm a short order cook, but I'm happy to cook up three different vegetables so everyone has their pick.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Yeah, and one of the things that I was, in terms of like the military and stuff, they would always tell me, because I always had high blood pressure, and they're always like, stay away from red meat, stay away from red meat. Well, I can tell you right now, I eat more red meat than I ever did. I just eat more red, like I'm eating it almost 5 nights a week, honestly. And I'm eating eggs on a regular basis too. And my cholesterol really isn't that high at all. And they always told me, like, this is what you would, that's how you could change, your cholesterol or whatever, or how you can bring it down or whatever. And like your high blood pressure and stuff like that. But like I'm eating more red meat than ever. And it's like my blood work is fantastic lately, and it seems like everything that they told me was kind of BS. And
totally. I mean, I could do like an hour-long dissertation on red meat and eggs. You know, what I always laugh because I still get clients who come to me and say, "My doctor says my cholesterol is too high." Okay, what's your total cholesterol? And they'll say it's whatever 220, and I'm like, first of all, that's not high, and number two, that's 1980s medicine. We're not practicing 1980s medicine anymore. High cholesterol is not damaging. It's not a problem. You need cholesterol. Cholesterol is the backbone of all your sex hormones. You want to feel good as you continue to age. You want to make like all your sex hormones, then you need to have ample cholesterol in your body. And total cholesterol is not the problem. And same thing, you're talking about with blood pressure. Blood pressure is not caused by red meat. Blood pressure is not even caused by salt intake. High blood pressure is caused by what we call insulin resistance at the level of the kidney. So fix insulin resistance that is going on systemically and at the level of the kidney, and lo and behold, you're going to fix your high blood pressure problem. Red meat, very healthy, rich in so many nutrients. Eggs, super healthy. eat them every day. There's no like 3 a week limit anymore. It's eat what you want and eat as much of it as you want, and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I went a little overboard today. I had 6 eggs, but
Oh,
they were
I'm not
serving
gonna call the nutrition police on you. You'll
they
be fine.
they were serving them at work. So I had I normally first thing in the morning, I'll have black coffee and I'll have 2 hard-boiled eggs, and that's how I start my day every single day.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, and then at work, sometimes they whatever they serve different foods. So, but today they had eggs, so I had some more eggs, and then for my lunch I had 2 hard-boiled eggs. So, but
There is nothing wrong with eggs. Actually, I think eggs are probably one of the most nutritious foods that you could find. And all the magic of the egg is actually in the yolk. So all the people who run around eating egg whites all the time, stop throwing away the yolk. The yolk
yeah,
is where all the magic lies. So eat the whole egg, and the runnier the yolk, the better. There's your pro tip of the day.
yeah. The cool one of the coolest things is, being in the military or whatever, and seeing these kids, like I I get to watch my soldiers like they were my children in a lot of ways, right? I was a first sergeant in the Army for a long time, and I get to watch these people like they were my children, and I'm watching them evolve, right? They're getting into more traditional lifestyle, like traditional marriage lifestyle, where their wives are whatever, gardening. They've got chickens, they're eating homegrown, their own eggs and stuff like that. I'm watching this happen because I'm still in touch with a lot of these people, and I'm watching it happen, and it's really a cool thing to see. They're like, I just talked to a kid the other day, and he's like, I'm going to buy more land because I want to get more chickens and I want to get a cow and stuff like that. It's just the coolest thing in the world to see, because they're on the right track. They're growing a lot of their own food. They are, eating their own eggs. And it's just really, for me, it's really cool to see how people are evolving in that way. And really, people are waking up to a lot of the different things, like I said, and that's one good thing that I see that came from the pandemic, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are more aware than they ever were. And it seems like in my lifetime, and I'm late Gen X, but it seems like they're hyper aware of what's going on around them. And, some of that's bad, but a lot of it's good talking about nutrition and health.
Oh, I think there was a lot of good that came out of it because, first of all, when everything shut down and all the gyms shut down, what did we see an increase? Everybody walking around the neighborhoods. Everyone was walking 2, 3 times a day at any hour of the day because no one was going into the office and everyone was at home. And I'm sorry that it took a pandemic to make everyone like get in touch with their activity level, but it's really nice to see. What percentage of people actually are still maintaining that connection to fitness? I'm not quite sure. But I agree with you. I think, you know, look, if I could have a giant piece of land and have my own chickens and raise all my own stuff, that would be like a little bit of nirvana for me. That would be like my ideal, homesteading type of life. But don't have the luxury of having all that kind of land. So I do have to just rely on the market for my organic foods and pasture raised eggs, etc.
Yeah, that would be expensive in SoCal to buy a big farm.
Yeah.
But maybe not so much here in South Georgia. But yeah, it's just, it's one of the cool things that I'm seeing from people, and I'm sure you're seeing some of the same. People, I have at a different job that I had or whatever, I had coworkers that would bring in eggs for everybody because he just had way too many, and it was just a really cool thing that they were doing, and people were taking them home and they were eating healthier. It's just a really awesome thing.
And it's like literally farm fresh eggs.
Yeah, yeah, and
How great is that?
yeah, and they last so long too. I was really shocked at how long you could keep them. As long as you don't wash them, you just keep the protective film on them, and
They
yeah,
can sit out at the room temperature too. They don't even have to be refrigerated. If they're
yeah,
super
yeah,
fresh.
yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, so way different than store-bought eggs.
For sure.
Bleached eggs, yeah. Um, So, in terms of your clients, in terms of people that you want to help, what are the things? What are the things that you're trying to help them with? What would you like to see more out of them? What direction are you trying to steer them? What's your philosophy in your regimen, I guess?
Well, first of all, I prefer to work with people who want to have a say in their own health, who want to help themselves get healthier, because then they are far more successful than if they are coming to see me kicking and screaming, right? So someone who's invested in themselves is always going to have a better result. But the main things that I'm always trying to work on is, trying to fix their gut health, because most people have terrible gut health. And then with fixing gut health, you'll see an improvement in inflammation, which of course comes with the better eating and the better lifestyle, the sleeping better, the better stress management, and improving their insulin resistance. Most everybody who comes to me is insulin resistant. And as soon as we can fix all three of those things or work on all three of those things, people all see such a better rate of return. Their success comes faster than it ever did before, because most women who come to see me say, "Oh, I struggle with weight loss. I keep losing the same 5 pounds over again, or I lose 5 and I gain 10, and then I lose 5 and then I gain 5." And they're on this constant roller coaster, but because they're not addressing the root causes. And when we address the root cause and we fix things with a real food first approach, and then I get them exercising the right way, not hours and hours on a treadmill, but lifting weight, like lifting heavy stuff, create more dense, metabolically active muscle tissue, they're going to see so much better results, and they're so much happier as a result. I mean, yes, exercise produces more happy producing neurotransmitters in your brain, staves off dementia, which is a good, thing for the long run. But overall, they see so much success and they feel so much better. They want to come back for more. They want to keep doing more and more and better and better.
Yeah, for sure. And I can attest to what you're saying is, like in terms of like, in the mornings, I like to run
Mhm.
almost every morning. And when I run, I feel better. I feel better for the day. I sleep better. My anxiety is way lower. And, it just really starts the day off right. The Army, they make you get up and work out in the mornings or whatever, but they're really doing it right in terms of like, starting off your day right or whatever. Like there's really something to that really just sets things off for you. And I
For
really,
sure.
yeah, I just, I told myself that I wouldn't work out every morning like I did in the Army or whatever. And here I am, still working out in the morning.
People who there is a stat out there somewhere, but it definitely shows that people who work out first thing in the morning or pretty close to first thing in the morning are more likely to be successful at continuing to maintain their workout. A, it sets you up for a great day. B, it floods your brain with like happy, productive neurotransmitters. It keeps you more focused and dialed in, and you just feel more accomplished because you're like, check, I did that, and check, I'm doing something great for my body, and check, I feel so much better. Why not do it again the next day?
Yeah, for sure. And I call it my daily head clearer. I go out, I think about things, I actually pray while I'm running. Because I'll run early enough in the morning where there's nobody out there. It's just me and the deer, maybe a raccoon or something like that. It's usually dark. So I'll just, and I think about a lot of different things, and it just sets my day off right. But in terms of like health or whatever, it's fantastic.
Hey, I do my best thinking and problem solving when I work out.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah. So talk to me about the RFK thing this week, and talking about
Oh, yeah.
vaccines and autism, talking about Tylenol. People are absolutely insane. So the President Trump mentions the Tylenol thing or whatever, and you got people that are online, they're just, they're pregnant, downing Tylenol. Just stop. Like literally, like Tylenol doesn't even recommend that. Like just stop. Like I don't understand the cognitive dissonance. Like it's just like they anything to prove him wrong. Like they just hate him. I just don't understand why you would hurt yourself like that just to prove a point. Like it's just crazy. Like it's such a wild time. to be alive. I don't, I
Yeah,
don't know what you can say to that. Like it
you
really,
really have to have a wild case of TDS to want to down a bottle of liquid Tylenol just to be like, you said Tylenol, may be linked to autism. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to drink a whole bottle of Tylenol. Why would you put anything in your body
yeah,
that is potentially harmful?
yeah,
Potentially.
yeah, it's funny, but it's not because there's a baby involved too. Like, and
Right.
a lot of like, just don't do that. Like, you don't need to prove a point. Like, just post something online or whatever. Like, don't take a bunch of Tylenol just to prove President Trump wrong. It's just ridiculous.
Well, everyone wants to go viral.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I would never hurt myself because I think that Nancy Pelosi is wrong on a lot of things. Like, I'm not gonna like go out there and hurt myself just because I think she's a bad politician. Like,
Right.
I'm just never gonna do that. But I
Right.
care too much about myself.
Yeah, but to your point about, the topic about vaccines, it's interesting. So there were two main things that were discussed. That Tylenol may be related to autism. And again, we're looking at correlation, not necessarily causation, although there are a number of epidemiologists who have uncovered number of studies. I mean, we're talking like around about 100 that are definitely linking vaccines to autism and Tylenol to autism. And what we're really seeing is that there's a couple other steps involved on how they're actually all linked. Vaccines are an assault on the immune system. So, you give a baby not just one vaccine, now you're giving them three in one shot or four in one shot. So now they're being assaulted with multiple viruses at one time. So it causes the immune system to react. They get a fever. What does the doctor say? Give your baby Tylenol to fight the fever. What Tylenol does, because it is detoxed or processed through the liver, is it depletes your master antioxidant in your body known as glutathione. Well, if you don't have glutathione on board, how are you supposed to mount a really good defense? How are you supposed to mount a good immune system? So we have vaccines causing this big, huge fire. Now you're trying to douse the fever with Tylenol, but at the same time, you're depleting the body's glutathione from its system. So now you can't really mount an immune system response very well. But they're also showing that there is, in your gut microbiome, there is a depletion of a specific strain of or family of microbes or bacteria called bifidobacterium. And you see very, very low or not almost non-existent levels of bifidobacterium in kids with autism. So you have all this multifactorial causes of things. And I think that they all come together and it's just this giant confluence of events. Um, and, they also talked about, a potential, treatment, although I don't think treatment is really the right word for autism. But, I do know kids who were diagnosed with, regressive autism in their, say, like 2, 3-year-old age after they got this whole series of, vaccines in their system, and you put them through the right kind of protocol, gut healing, clean food, getting them to sleep, supplementation with certain specific items, and you can see a massive improvement in a good number. I can't say it's all because autism has so many different causes and there's so many different types of autism. It's not a one size fits all disease or state. So there's no one size fits all treatment for it, but there are things you can do to try to stack the deck in the favor of your child to hopefully treat them should they already be diagnosed, or maybe just maybe not give them 72 doses of vaccines by the time that they are 18. Go back to single strains of a vaccine one at a time, or maybe change the whole policy on vaccines in general. I mean, when I grew up, when I was a kid, I think we maybe got a total of like 6 vaccines
Right.
by the time we, headed into school, and that was pretty much it. And I look at my youngest and I'm like, holy moly, like, no, this is too much. This is not okay. I mean, he had a reaction when he was 2 months old to the multiplicity of shots that they gave him all at once. I mean, his head broke out head to toe in a rash that lasted about a month. Don't tell me that's a coincidence.
Right. Yeah, I've heard from so many different people online. Their baby was, hitting milestones normally, all these different things, and then they get a load of shots or whatever, and then bam, their kid, is completely changed,
Yeah.
completely different look, completely different, just demeanor, everything about them. And you hear that from a lot of people, especially here on X, because people can speak truthfully about the things that are happening, and they want to know why. They want to know what it is. Obviously, they deserve that answer too. And if it is due to the load of vaccines that their kid got, I mean, my God, we have to stop doing that then.
Right.
Yeah, because we can't keep down that road. But to your point too, I've also heard from a lot of people that dietary adjustments are making improvements for their kids. It's diet is such a huge thing. It plays into so many different things. Obviously,
We go
fitness.
back to that over and over again.
Yeah, fitness. Your you
It's
know
the foundation.
yeah, your well-being, it plays into your mental health,
Mhm.
your sleep, everything. It's all connected. And my degree is psychology, and so I did a lot on health psychology and how that's all connected. If you neglect one, you're neglecting them all, and
Yeah.
so it's all connected. But in terms of like what types of diet, somebody who had autism, what should they be looking to do?
I'd be looking at first, okay, what are we removing? We're going to remove all the processed junk kid food, stuff that's marketed towards kids, cereal and crackers and cookies and just junk, junk, junk that's high in sugar and high in refined flours, zero nutritional value. None at all. But like, why do parents buy them? Because that's what the kids say that they want, and that's the only thing then the kids end up eating. But that is just further depleting them of real nutrients. So you pull out all the junk. And then you start to fill them with the super nourishing foods. You get them a nice big variety of all the different animal proteins. You start to feed their gut microbiome with the nutrients that it needs. That your microbiome needs certain types of fibers to help the microbes, the bacteria grow, to have the good beneficial bacteria grow. And we starve out the bad, poor, the terrible bacteria by getting rid of the junk food. Those bacteria love to eat sugar and refined flour. So we starve them out, and then we nourish them with fiber foods, healthy fats because they need that for their brain development, and plenty of animal protein.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you brought up a good point too. Is there these junk foods are highly palatable, like they taste good. I'll admit, like Gushers taste good. Fruity Pebbles taste fantastic.
Sure.
They're hard to, break your toddler of eating these things, especially if you've already started them on them. It's hard to tell them, hey, this is really bad for you. Why? It tastes fantastic, right? So same with McDonald's. It tastes
Yeah.
really good.
And then they cry out for more, or they stomp their feet and they throw themselves on the ground and they have a temper tantrum because they're not going to eat what you put in front of them until you give them mac and cheese, or
Right.
until you give them a cookie, or until you give them fruity pebbles.
Yeah, for sure.
And it takes a strong parent to be able to say, this is what's for dinner.
Right. Yeah. I had to do that in my own life, because right before the pandemic, I started raising my boys on my own. And my ex-wife, she was more forgiving. She would let them eat fast food. She would let them
Mhm.
eat all these different things. And so I had to break them of it. And it wasn't easy. Trust me, it
No.
was not easy because your kids have to eat and stuff, and so when they're not eating or whatever, they're just like, no, I don't want to eat it or whatever. Like it's really tough, and I know a lot of parents experience that. Their kids only want to eat chicken nuggets and stuff. Your kid has to eat, otherwise they're going to get, they're going to cause a whole bunch of other problems. And so a lot of people just give in and give them the chicken nuggets. But the thing is like, I guess if you're lucky like me, where you're the only parent involved, you can kind of change that thing. But if you have multiple parents, or if you're co-parenting or something like that, it can be really challenging too.
Yeah, I generally tell parents who are coming to me to, either work with their kids because the kid has a food allergy or the kid is overweight or any a number of reasons. I let them know, like, you as the parent, your job is to put a variety of foods on the table. It is your child's job to determine what from that set of variety of foods that they're going to pick and put on their plate and eat. It's not a food fight. Don't have a battle with them. Don't force feed them. But if you provide a nice buffet or variety of food for them, allow them to pick and choose what they want to put on their plate and put in their mouth. And then when the meal is done, or they said that they're not hungry anymore, then the meal is over and you'll see them at the next meal. Not They don't get to come back an hour later and then ask for a cookie or go get a Go-Gurt or whatever because they didn't eat enough. Parents make the decisions, of what's going on the table, and children get to decide. It's really empowering for them when you say, look at all this great stuff to choose from, but I'm not going to tell you what to eat. You make a
Yeah.
decision. And it starts at a very early age, and it's very empowering for them. And then, again, you take out the junk. It's no longer an option. They can no longer go into the pantry or the refrigerator or the freezer and find those items there.
Yeah, Kettlebell Dan. Hopefully he's watching too, or hopefully he gets to watch this. He talks about the same thing, providing basically a smorgasbord of fruit and stuff like that for your kids or whatever, so they can just grab them and go or whatever, and they can choose whatever they want. He said some of the same things. How do you get these kids to stop eating, the sugary things or whatever? You just provide them this. In the beginning, you provide them this big thing, and talking about my own kids, my kids love watermelon. That's one of the things. So I just every week I'm buying watermelon for these guys because they will eat it and it's good for them. And it's just like you got to find out what works for you. And he made a few different posts about that, but that made me think of that.
Yeah. That's good advice. Again, it's tough as a parent to implement when you're trying to completely change things if you haven't started this from the get-go. But
Right.
it's never too late to make a change. Believe me, children, when they're little, the littler they are, the quicker they forget. And the tantrums don't usually last more than a day or two.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to return to the table when they're really physically hungry. You can say to them, you don't want to eat tonight. It is fine. You are not obligated to eat dinner. I'll see you in the morning at breakfast, and whatever you put on the table for breakfast. If they are hungry enough, they are going to eat.
Yeah, for sure. And, I guess I have an advantage. I'm a little like, I can be very strict with them, but I treat them a lot like my soldiers, but they
Yeah.
they respond in the same way. But like I said, like my soldiers were like my kids too. I'm trying to make them better people, and so
For sure. And that's our job as a parent. I
yeah.
mean, we want to be a good role model for our kids. How can we be a good role model if we're not showing them how to eat properly, that we exercise, that we go to bed at a decent hour, that we do things to maintain our, manage our stress levels so that we can be good, well-rounded, healthy human beings? We have to model the behavior first.
Yeah, for sure. And so, in terms of like where you want to take URockGirl and what you want to see it morph into, or if you're happy with where it is, what is your vision for that whole
We spent, I remember 2025. So we spent 15 good years building all the content that we have on the platform. I love recipe development. I'm happy when I'm in the kitchen. And my job is to find new ways to make food taste good and be really good for you, because nobody wants to eat plain chicken and broccoli. It's really kind of boring. So, my job is to find ways to make anything out there that's in the world of foods that I recommend taste amazing, and people go, "Wow, that was so good. I want to have that again." Or it's really easy to make. I was frankly very surprised. So the more I can, empower people to go into the kitchen and cook and take some of my recipes and work on them and make something new for your family. Your family will thank you when you make something new because it's not the same old, same old. But I love recipe development. And that's probably where I'll continue to work on it, is just coming up with new recipes pretty much for every category of food that I can think of.
Yeah, I struggle with that because like my oldest son, he's actually really good at meal prepping. He makes his meals or whatever, and like he takes them to work and stuff. He does it way better than I do because I'm I can cook really well, but I just I get so involved with life and everything that's going on. I'm working out, I'm working long hours and stuff like that. So sometimes it's challenging to make something that tastes good.
Sure.
Is different from what I normally cook or whatever, and then that I'm going to want to eat on a regular basis too.
You know what? Season
challenge.
aggressively. Use your herbs and your spices and your good quality salt and your black pepper and some acid, and season the heck out of everything, because give food flavor and it's going to taste amazing.
Yeah, for sure. That's if one thing where I need to do is I could probably improve there. I could probably improve my meal prep. I can probably improve, some of my recipes, my go-tos. I need a better toolkit to start with. I'm sure you
I
probably.
would say you're not alone in that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I use the excuse that I'm a guy, but I guess that's not really a good excuse. But it's I'm not creative in the kitchen. I'm creative enough in the kitchen, I guess. So.
You know what? But that's where you get to go to the world of the web. And you can go onto Pinterest, or you can type, go onto Pinterest and type in whatever search you want to type in: high protein meals, low carb meals, pick a steak related meal, whatever, and then get ideas. And from those ideas, then you can personalize them. You can go, oh, that sounds really good, but I don't really like that one ingredient. Fine, swap it.
Right.
But, get inspiration from people who've already, put out recipes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's probably, that should be like my New Year's resolution that I'm going to do.
Still have a.
Oh, we just froze here. Erin, are you still there, or did I just freeze? Well, we figure this out here. There you are.
I'm back. Sorry, my phone went bye-bye.
No worries. I was wondering it was me. I was like,
no, it's not it's you, it's me. This is that case for sure.
No worries. Yeah, I was like, hopefully it's
no
not.
Apologize.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It happens. We were talking earlier about technology and stuff like that, and some of the benefits. This is one of the benefits right here. We can have this conversation. We got almost 8,000 live listeners right now.
Wow,
so
very cool.
You can reach a lot of people in a short amount of time, and they can receive the benefit from hearing from you, an expert. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I've been doing this for more than 30 years, and I love that what I do has such a profound impact on people's lives. I have the ability to reach and touch somebody and connect with them in a way where they realize that I am not just telling them what to do, but I am listening to them. And then I am personalizing things for them so that it feels doable and achievable. And then they walk away going, I can do that. This is different than what I've been done before. Or like, for example, I had a client yesterday who was working on her fertility journey, and I was making the recommendation because she was eating a lot of, carbohydrate and not enough protein. And I was explaining how we wanted to kind of shift those ratio, and I'm not pulling all the carbohydrate out. And she's like, well, I kind of had a bad experience with low carb in the past. I'm like, well, we're not going to do that again. Like, we're going to try it differently. I'm sure, like, did someone tell you to try this? No. Did someone try, I want to help people avoid the pitfalls in the past so they can achieve their health and wellness goals and do it in a way where there's no struggle or no suffering. And I'm always there for them. Like, I might not see someone for a week or 2 weeks, but I do let them know that if you have a question, don't wait 2 weeks to get a hold of me. Send me an email and I'll get to you by the end of the day. Like, your answers are going to be answered.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. And we're talking about health information and those type of things too. But like, I hear about, the all this technology is bad for us and all these different things. And I always tell people this story because I've done 5 combat deployments, right?
Oh, wow.
I did the initial Iraq invasion, and all the way to 2018 was my last deployment to Afghanistan. And from that, from those different years, there's such an evolution of technology. So in the beginning, right, we would maybe be able to send an email home like every now and then and write a letter, and you would get a response maybe in a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And that's the way it started out for a lot of people. And then, on my last deployment, we had cell phones, and my kids could text me like I was in the next room. It was really, they could reach out to me anytime if they had a problem or something like that, or they wanted to show me something. Like, it was just like I was in the next room, but even though I was on the other side of the planet. And so when people talk about, technology being bad, or like, the downfalls of technology, I always tell them that story because, there's good in it. It's a tool. As long as you're using it correctly, you can gain a lot from it. You have something that fits in your pocket that has every answer in the world, and if you choose to watch cat videos, well, that's on you, but but you can really solve a lot just with this little device, and it's
like you said, use it responsibly, and this is something I'll say to my clients all the time. Like, don't come to a session and say, well, I Googled my X, Y, and Z symptoms, and this is what Dr. Google told me. I'm like, no, that's not what the internet's for. We do not want to be, consulting with Dr. Google. It could be any of a million things that could be going on, and this is not what we want to use wisely. You want to use the internet for looking for recipes, great. You want to use the internet to learn more about a ketovore diet, a carnivore diet, a keto diet, a vegan diet, a Mediterranean diet. Learn, educate yourself with stuff like that, but don't use it as a replacement for a doctor or a diagnosis.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely get good advice. So that can be challenging because there's a lot of bad advice out there too, and they have access to all that. But you just got to make sure you're going to good sources, and that's why I appreciate X, because you find some really fantastic people on here. One of my best interviews I did with my friend Gen X. We interviewed Robert Malone, and that was one of my best spaces. I did it with Mary Talley Bowden, Lynn Finn, just a really, really fantastic panel that we had on there. It was a great show. And
I'm sure.
Yeah, just it was wild because I tell people, I interviewed him or whatever, and like he's been on Joe Rogan and stuff, and he's renowned, he's an author, it's wild the people that you can connect with on here, and it's really fantastic people, and it's kind of the equalizer, on lives on here and spaces. You can really connect with a lot of different people that you wouldn't have the ability to any other way. And so
for sure, man. Look how you and I met.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. And a few weeks ago, Mark Lucas, he did a post about Veterans Choice thing that he's trying to push through Congress or whatever. And I just tagged my congressional rep, and I tagged him in it, and I said, hey, can we make this happen? Wham! The next day he was a co-sponsor on this. You can do you can do real things on here. People think it's dumb or whatever to tag somebody on here or whatever, but like, bam, like I got my congressman to sign on to that bill, and it was huge. So
it's amazing. And you know what? Thank goodness for social media platforms that we have the ability to reach out to people who we otherwise maybe in the past would never have gotten past, say, an assistant or a voicemail box or something like that. This way you're putting it out there in the public eye, and then you're tagging, and it's kind of like, well, now it's your turn to respond, and you got a great response.
Yeah. And people surprise you too all the time. You see like this tiny account. It's got like 200 followers, and they just say the most phenomenal things. You're like, why is your account so small? Like, I wish I could just, you know, blow you up so that everybody could hear from you, because you're just you're really fantastic, and you got really great things to say. But you know, eventually it happens for a lot of them. Yeah. They are smart, and people cling to, you know, the people that are saying the right things. So
hope so. You know, for the most part, that's what we hope for. You know, people are finding people who have smart things to say, and they're learning. You know, it's like if people can walk away with just even one pearl of wisdom from anything that I said today, that will mean such a huge deal for me, because that means I've changed someone's life in at least one way. And if they've got one piece of advice that they can take and make actionable, their life's going to be that much better.
Yeah. Well, we've been going at this for about an hour now.
Wow.
And we got 9,000 listeners right now. Where can people find you on all your different platforms?
So on X, I'm at both at URockGirl. So U is not YOU, it is the letter U, ROCKGIRL. So URockGirl, URockGirl.com. You can also find me personally on X at Erin_RDN. Instagram, U_rock_girl. That's a lot. It's a big mouthful to say like that. But if you just go to URockGirl.com, you'll find all the different buttons for all the different platforms.
Yeah, for sure. Follow Erin on X. That's you know, one of the fastest ways, because she has it right underneath her profile information, her website. You can reach it. That was one of the reasons why I asked her to come on here, especially because I checked out her website and I was like, man, people have to hear from you.
I appreciate that.
You got big things going on, and we got to get your name out there, especially on your X profile, because people are looking for the truth, and people are looking to hear from people like you, and to get really good information to improve their lives.
Well, thank you. And that's my, you know, my second biggest goal in life is to help people. My first biggest goal is as a wife and a mom, you know, family first, take care of my family, but then I want to take care of the rest of the world. I want to help people who want to help themselves. And I've got lots to say and lots to share. So, you know, at me, you know, find me on X and engage me in a conversation. I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming tonight. Fantastic conversation. You're a great speaker. Hopefully we can have you back again, because I think, you know, we could go in a lot of different directions too, and, you know, get into more of the specifics of things. We kind of did broad strokes here today, but you're a really fantastic guest, and I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us.
Well, thank you for having me. And as you can tell, I can talk about a lot of different topics. I'm super passionate. So pick a topic. We'll do a deep dive anytime you want.
Yeah, maybe we can go into politics more or something.
Sure, you know? Why not? I got a lot to say.
Yeah, I tried to stay away from that tonight.
You did a good job of it.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy thing, you know, the things that are happening in the UK, you know, the sniper attack today, you know, you got the peel of Obamacare. The most crazy thing is the ostriches in Canada. Why?
Yeah. I woke up this morning, I was like, what was that? I mean, like,
yeah, because of bird flu. Oh my gosh, like, leave the ostriches alone. My God, they're walling them in with hay, and then they're shooting them from.
It's barbaric. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, they got me wanting to adopt an ostrich. Like, seriously, like
rescue an ostrich.
Yeah, ostrich eggs you can eat those too, right?
Yes, you can. They are huge and they are really hard to crack. But I mean, if you think like a chicken egg is nutritious, now you're talking like an ostrich egg is probably like the equivalent of maybe like 10 or 12 eggs.
If I could have an ostrich in my yard, I would. It'd probably jump my fence, but I could treat it better than it's getting treated in Canada. That's for 100%. Sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming here tonight, Erin. You're a fantastic guest and a fantastic person. Check out URockGirl. Follow her on X. Just really a great person. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Erin.
Have a good night.
All right. Well, that's all for our show tonight. I appreciate everybody coming. Appreciate everybody coming in and listening. Those that reposted, commented, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming in and checking out our live tonight. My co-host wasn't able to come, but normally it's me and Kimmy here. Follow us on our X profiles at BlackhawkCE457 at Kimma. I give her crap about that. It's Kim Maga Gal too, but I call it Kimma. Just thanks for joining us at Liberal Tears on Tap. Have a good night.